Every day, another $1 billion is invested, not into smartphones, not even into social media, not even into artificial intelligence, but into something much bigger: infrastructure. Massive buildings, thousands of servers, power stations, fiber networks, cooling systems, machines designed to do one thing: keep the modern internet running. Most people never see these investments. They only see the products built on top of them: artificial intelligence, cloud computing, streaming, online banking. Everything feels instant. Everything feels effortless. But nothing about this system is effortless. Because before innovation can happen, someone has to build the foundation. And today, the world's largest technology companies are spending more money on that foundation than at any other time in history. The question is, why? History remembers inventions: the steam engine, electricity, the automobile, the internet, artificial intelligence. But history often forgets what came first: infrastructure. Factories came before mass production. Railroads came before nationwide commerce. Electricity grids came before modern cities. Fiber networks came before cloud computing. Data centers came before artificial intelligence. The pattern repeats. Every technological revolution begins the same way. Someone builds the infrastructure long before demand arrives, long before headlines appear, long before profits exist. Because infrastructure is not built for today, it is built for tomorrow. And tomorrow requires confidence. Confidence requires capital. Capital requires vision. This is where the story really begins. Capital has a different perspective than most people. People invest after opportunity becomes obvious. Infrastructure investors do the opposite. They invest before opportunity exists. Because infrastructure cannot appear overnight. A hyperscale data center can take years to complete. Power generation takes even longer. Fiber networks stretch across countries, sometimes across oceans. Every piece must already exist before the first customer arrives. That changes everything. Technology companies are not simply predicting the future. They are constructing it. One building, one network, one investment at a time. And that raises an even bigger question. What do they see that everyone else has not? Most people believe technology creates infrastructure, but the opposite is often true. Infrastructure creates technology. Before an AI model can answer a question, a server must exist. Before a server can exist, a data center must be built. Before a data center can operate, electricity must be available. Before electricity arrives, someone must invest. Every innovation begins several layers below the surface, layers most people never notice. Because infrastructure is designed to disappear. Not physically, but psychologically. When infrastructure works, people stop thinking about it. They only notice the experience. The speed, the convenience, the intelligence. Yet behind every second of convenience, millions of machines are working together. Quietly, continuously, without interruption. That is the real product: reliability. Building digital infrastructure is expensive. Building it twice is even more expensive. This creates an unusual advantage. The larger the infrastructure becomes, the lower the average operating cost. Lower costs allow lower prices. Lower prices attract more customers. More customers generate more revenue. More revenue funds even larger infrastructure. The cycle repeats, not because companies become lucky, because scale changes the economics. Infrastructure rewards patience. Infrastructure rewards efficiency. Most importantly, infrastructure rewards those who build first. This is why technology companies keep investing, not because today's demand is large enough, but because tomorrow's demand may be impossible to serve without today's investment. Imagine a flywheel. At first, it barely moves. Every push feels difficult. Every investment feels expensive. Progress appears slow. Then something changes. Infrastructure increases capacity. Capacity reduces friction. Lower friction attracts developers. Developers build better software. Better software attracts more users. More users generate more revenue. Revenue finances more infrastructure. Now the flywheel turns faster. Each rotation requires less effort. Each investment creates greater returns. Eventually, the system begins accelerating itself. This is not just business, it is compounding. And compounding is one of the most powerful forces in the modern economy. The companies investing billions today are not buying servers, they are buying momentum. Momentum that becomes increasingly difficult for competitors to catch. Because once infrastructure reaches sufficient scale, it stops competing on products alone. It begins competing on capability. And capability is much harder to replicate. Something changed. Technology companies stopped competing only with software. They started competing with infrastructure. Who has more compute? Who has more energy? Who has more bandwidth? Who can build faster? Who can scale further? Because infrastructure creates capability. Capability creates opportunity. Opportunity attracts customers. Customers generate capital. Capital builds more infrastructure. The cycle continues. Quietly, year after year. At first, this looks like competition. But underneath, it is something else. An infrastructure race. One measured not in downloads, but in megawatts. Not in applications, but in capacity. Not in users, but in capability. Because in the modern internet, capacity determines possibility, and possibility determines the future. More infrastructure creates more compute. More compute reduces cost. Lower cost creates more software. More software creates more businesses. More businesses create more demand. More demand requires more infrastructure. Notice something. The cycle never ends. Every investment creates another reason to invest. Every improvement creates another opportunity to improve. This is why infrastructure compounds. It doesn't simply support the economy, it expands the economy. The internet grows, artificial intelligence grows, cloud computing grows, digital commerce grows, not independently, but together. Each layer strengthens the next, until an entire civilization begins operating on digital infrastructure. History celebrates inventions, but civilizations are built by infrastructure. The most important investments are rarely visible. Most people will never visit a hyperscale data center. They will never walk through a submarine cable landing station. They will never see the power systems keeping the modern internet alive. Yet every search, every message, every transaction, every AI conversation depends on them. The future isn't built when a new product launches. The future is built years earlier, when someone decides to invest billions in infrastructure nobody is asking for. Because by the time the world realizes it needs more capacity, the leaders have already built it. That is how civilizations grow, quietly, patiently, infrastructure first, innovation follows. For decades, technology companies sold products. Today, many of them build infrastructure. Infrastructure that enables products. Infrastructure that enables businesses. Infrastructure that enables economies. Because products can be copied, features can be replicated, applications can be replaced. But infrastructure is different. It requires patience, capital, engineering, time, and once it reaches scale, it becomes extraordinarily difficult to replace. Perhaps the most valuable companies are no longer building software. They are building the foundations on which everyone else's software depends. The next technological revolution will not begin with an application. It will begin with infrastructure. Every new generation of artificial intelligence will require more compute. More compute will require more electricity. More electricity will require more investment. More investment will create even greater capability. The cycle continues. Not because technology demands it, but because civilization does. The biggest investment of this decade may never appear in your hand. You will never download it. You will never install it. You may never even see it. But every digital experience will depend on it. Quietly, every second, every day. Every click begins somewhere. Inside a server, inside a data center, connected through fiber, powered by electricity, supported by capital, maintained by engineers. The modern internet is not a single invention. It is millions of systems working together. Invisible, reliable, always available. That is the architecture behind the digital world. If you enjoy exploring the systems behind technology, the infrastructure behind innovation, and the capital shaping the modern internet, subscribe to NEXNET and tell us, what invisible system should we explore next? The future doesn't begin when a new technology appears. It begins when someone builds the infrastructure that makes the technology possible. Behind every breakthrough, there is a network. Behind every network, there is investment. Behind every investment, there is belief. A belief that tomorrow will demand more than today can provide. That belief is quietly reshaping the modern internet. One investment, one data center, one network, one system at a time. This is NEXNET, inside the modern internet.